24/7.
24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana. Oh, Afrika nakupenda sana.
Welcome to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. I am your host. As we continue in the month of July, as we said that we will be talking on different mental conditions. Even as a country, we are on a campaign to bring in awareness on mental health. So today we continue with our resident psychologist, Dr. Mkateko Mabunda. Last week she took us through dementia, which is a mental disorder. She was able to take us through all the different things that can highlight to us that one is suffering from dementia, and of course, assist us to make sure that we enhance the quality of life. You know, when it comes to mental health or when it comes to diseases or any other thing, what's more important is that at times you cannot run away from the condition, but what's important is that you are able to respond appropriately and enhance the quality of life. To say, even if you're suffering from something, you can be able to live a better life. Unlike when you're not informed and you do not know what are the steps to take, how to make sure that your life is comfortable. So as prudent women, as we always say, we bring to you different professionals so that you are able to respond appropriately when there is a need for you to do such. So we continue today. Dr. Mkateko is here right with us. She will be talking to us, bringing in awareness for us to be able to identify whether our loved ones or even ourselves, we have such a disorder, and how can we seek for help and how can we enhance the quality of life. Dr. Mkateko, our resident psychologist, welcome to Prudent Woman, Dr. Mkateko. We are
Thank you.
to have you again this Sunday. Will you like to greet our audience?
Yes, I greet all of you people at home. I'm happy, well, not to see you, but to be with you in this platform once again.
Thank you, Dr. Mkateko. And I would like to welcome all of you who are watching us on Facebook and all of you on our YouTube page. Please, if you have not yet subscribed, please just click that subscribe button so that you do not miss anything that Bold Moves Radio brings along. And all of you joining us on our stream on Bold Moves Radio, you are welcome. And if you want to be part of this conversation, we'd like to encourage you. Please send us a WhatsApp with your comments, with your questions. Our psychologist is here to help you, to assist us, and to empower us with information. You can drop your WhatsApp on 081 358 8745. I would like to repeat that is 081 358 8745. And of course, if you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can just drop down your comments, your questions on the comment section. We'd like to say thank you for joining us, and we trust that as prudent women, we are also bringing along other women and other people to become prudent, to be able to respond appropriately when the season calls for it. Dr. Mkateko, today's topic is very interesting. It's something that in most cases, I've observed that whenever we see someone who tends to have changes in mood swings, we loosely use the word to say this person is bipolar, or we don't understand their mood. Their moods, we tend to say they are bipolar. So I would like to believe that it's in this session that you're going to assist us not to only just use this word loosely, but only to use it when it's appropriate and only to respond to such in a much better way, not to mock, but to enhance each other's life.
Yes.
So, Dr. Mkateko, maybe just to open the conversation, what will you say is a bipolar condition?
Okay. So bipolar is a mood disorder. It is a type of a mood disorder which is specifically defined, or rather described, by the highs and the lows of our moods. So, for instance, there is what we call mania. Mania, it is when a person has like excessive and extensive emotions of being very irritable, sometimes very angry, sometimes very happy. And these people have one, they're easily distractible. It's easy to lose concentration for them. Two, they're impulsive. They just do things without thinking them through. And then the third one is they have what we call illusions of grandiosity, when they believe they can fly, like literally fly. And then we also have the other part, which is depressive. So being on a high like that, and then the next thing, the person is on a low. And then we have the third one, which is now the cyclothymia, which is a combination of the two, mania, hypomania, and the depressive modes. So a lot of people, we tend to confuse other mood disorders with bipolar, and it's different in the way that it manifests. It's also different based on the time period of the symptoms, or rather lasting of the symptoms as you see them. So the other one, I know we love saying, oh, this one is bipolar. No, it doesn't work like that. There is another different type of a mood disorder.
So, Doctor, maybe if I may follow up on that, when you talk about the time that lapses with a person going through such a disorder, maybe if you can try to elaborate for us on that, so that at least we are able to,
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you, a host, to remind me to speak in simple terms. I want our people to understand, so I'm gonna try and simplify it as much as I can. So we have three types of bipolar disorder, and these three types can coexist together. So the first one that we have is mania, bipolar 1. We call it BD1. So it is BP1. It is bipolar 1. Right? So with this one, this person should be going through, you remember when I explained the mania before? So this person is manic, they're irritable, they can be angry at any time, they can indulge in all sorts of behaviors which could be dangerous for them and also dangerous for other people as well. This is when they can also commit suicide or believe that they are a president of the country. So now, for this to be now classified as bipolar 1, is the person should be going through these things for a period of 7 days, minimum 7 days, without any break in between. So the 7 days is what makes them different. So, and then we go to what we call bipolar 2. So bipolar 2, that's where we have what we call the hypomania. So hypomania is a mild version of the bipolar 1, where you are manic and you don't need much sleep, but the period is now 4 days minimum, and you don't go above that, or you do go above that, but you don't reach the 7 criteria for the first one. And then we have now the third one, the cyclothymia. It's now as well 7 days. So 7 days upwards, you've got the highs and the lows, and you can't get out of bed, or you sleep too much, or you sleep too little. Then it is cyclothymia, but it must be more than 7 days.
Okay. So, Doctor, yes, you indicated that must be in simpler terms. You know, these terms are too big for us, a lay person like myself, when it comes to health issues. You tend to have someone, let's say it's myself. I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like talking to anyone. And later, maybe around 8, then I feel like talking to anyone. Will you classify such a person as bipolar? Which type there, or they are not even there?
they are not bipolar. Like I said, it depends on the intensity of the symptoms. That's number one. Number two, it also depends on the time. So the time will tell us that this thing has now escalated into being a disorder. But we do have people who are failing. Hence, I'm saying we do have those people. You do have a person where in the morning this person is angry, or this person is just in a foul mood, and then the next thing they are in a happy mood, and you know that this is a person whom you know that you just never know which mood you're going to find them in. That is a mood disorder of its kind on its own, not necessarily bipolar. With bipolar, it has to meet the criterion that I mentioned just now, the time and the intensity, and it should be out of character for that person. You do not know that person to be such a person. Unlike when a person is just having a mood disorder where they are failing to regulate their moods, like you just explained.
Thank you so much. I trust that it also assists most of us as we are watching to say not everyone is suffering from bipolar. If you feel someone is not receiving you well at that time, you've got no reason to classify them as bipolar, as she's indicating. Yes. That it must have taken a certain time period, and as well, it must be out of character for that person. So it means for myself, doctor, I'll continuously use myself as an example, keep on saying that so that we can simply understand it. If it's me, if I come and I say I'm riding a bike, and you have never heard me saying I can ride a bike, or I go and buy a bike, I start riding, I do all these things which are very adventurous. So someone do such things, ne?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's normally you start seeing it by also, especially when it's the bipolar one, you start seeing people doing like outlandish things. They go and invest, they go and for instance withdraw all their pension fund, or resign from work, or do things which are just too extreme. They are impulsive with their decisions and their thoughts. They follow their thoughts without thinking things through. So if you come and you say to me, you are buying a bike, you buy the bike and you start riding a bike, not in a normal sequence of order in which you could reach that decision, but you decide right now, then you get up and go and buy a bike and you start riding a bike. You've never driven a bike, you've never even seen anyone driving a bike or anything like that, but all of a sudden you want a motorbike, you buy it right there and then, and you actually believe that you can actually drive a motorbike.
Thank you so much, Doctor. To our listeners and our viewers, I'm spending more time on the definition because I wanted us to understand.
Yes.
As I said, when it comes to bipolar, I've observed that most of the time we use that word very loosely, and it can be dangerous because when you diagnose someone without a better understanding, then it means you will take precautions or you will take them through treatment which is not appropriate. So that was the reason for me wanting to spend more time in us understanding what is bipolar. Thank you so much, Doctor. I think by now most of us, we understand it, and we will be able to respond appropriately, especially to our loved ones, because this type of things, with mental health, the challenge is that the person suffering from it, they are likely not to be able to come forth because at that time they are not themselves. So they need the community around them. So it's upon us, the people around such people, to be able to come forth and be able to seek help for such people. Thank you so much. I would like us to go on an ad break. When we come back, Doctor, I want us now to venture into something, when most of the time when we talk bipolar, some will say, no, it's because this person is depressed. They're having a lot of problems. That's what led them to that. So I would want to assist us to differentiate between the two, depression and bipolar. What is the difference there, so that at least let us be informed and be able to respond appropriately as prudent women. Let us go on and listening to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. We have with us this afternoon our resident psychologist, Dr. Mkateko Mabunda. We are talking on bipolar, a mental disorder that most of us would always refer to loosely without facts and understanding of what it is. Before we went on an ad break, she took us through the definition, and I explained to us, when can one say this person is suffering from this disorder? Dr. Mkateko, as I've requested, let us now look at bipolar and depression. What will you say are the major differences that differentiates between the two? Because in most cases, we tend to couple them. We say someone has started in depression, they're depressed, maybe they're having a lot of debts. Now they've developed bipolar. Is that right?
Okay, so most often than not, there is a difference between bipolar and depression. With depression, for one, is the mood itself. You are on a constant low. You remember when I spoke about bipolar, I spoke about mania. So you become manic, you have got lows, you've got your highs. So with depression, you are just on a constant low with no energy, with no motivation, with a lot of things, everything that you normally do. And this impairs your sleeping, this impairs your sex drive, it impairs your focus at work, it impairs everything that you should be having enough energy for, you do not have. And you also, sleep. And no matter how much sleep you get, you never get enough sleep. And although you have slept enough, you can't get out of bed, you can't bathe, you can't do so many things. Now with bipolar, you have a manic. When I say manic, I'm gonna try and use the word excited. You have an excited and a powerful airs about you. You are excited, you do things, you've got this huge amount of energy that never seems to go out. So with bipolar, you tend to go on a high and have all those energies and you've got all of that. And then the next moment, you are now on a low where that energy is nowhere to be found. So that's the difference between the two. But I do have to say, with many psychological conditions, most often than not, you have what we call a comorbid coexistence of several disorders. That's why it is very important. The diagnosis of it is very important, because you find that someone is suffering from depression and they are misdiagnosed as having bipolar, and the other way around, simply because these disorders have a tendency of coexisting. So it's quite a muddy area to play with. That's why it's very key for us to go to the right people to be able to diagnose us.
Thank you so much. You bringing in something very important, that you need to go to the right people to be able to diagnose. And as I've said before, to say, with mental health, the challenge is that as the patient, you are usually not yourself and you are not able to seek for help. That's why sessions like this, doctor, where you take your time and teach us on these conditions, is very important. I may not be suffering, or I may not know anyone closer to myself who's suffering from that, but I never know what shall happen in the future. So it's very important for one to empower yourself, so that if it so happens, you are able to identify or recognize such, and of course, seek for help and get the right diagnosis. Dr. Mkateko, bipolar, it's a foreign sickness to us, especially the people of color. I will not even know what will we say it is in my African language. Not even a single one. I know quite a number of African languages. Not even a single one where I'm able to say this is what is called bipolar. But I know that in our African culture, a whole lot of sicknesses, especially when it's mental sickness, attribute it mostly either to witchcraft. Actually, most of the time, we attribute it to witchcraft. And I believe that in this session, help us to understand what will be the cause of this disorder that you're talking about, so that we now understand, with the definition you've given us, we now understand it's things that we can try to minimize, it's things that we can change our lifestyles to make sure that we don't find ourselves in such a situation. We can be able to take the necessary steps.
Yes. Okay, so with as with most mental illnesses, there is no definite cause that we can point to say this is the reason why this person would behave like this. But in bipolar, we've got several, avenues that are being still researched by now, which we can point to as the cause. The first one being genes, right? Genetics, people who, according to the stats and the research, the body of work out there points to the fact that people who have family members who have suffered from one type of mental illness or the other tend to have a 50% chance of being susceptible to such. So you've got that chance to develop that condition, and simply based on your gene. The unfortunate part is we cannot pinpoint in what DNA, what is the DNA, in what gene, what is this specific gene that causes you to then develop into this particular condition. Number two is I'm gonna this one I'll end with it rather. The third one is lifestyle choices. Drugs can make you develop this condition. Drugs, simply because they alter the chemicals in your brain, they might just push you to that direction. And then as well, speaking of drugs, alcohol, substance use, right? It can. And then as well, what happens is that in the brain we have what we call happy hormones, right? So these happy hormones are dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. These are happy hormones. So these happy hormones work as neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitter is a transport, it's a messenger. So this messenger is the one which controls your mood, what we call mood regulation. It says in the frontal lobe and temporal lobe to say, now you can be happy. Now this situation is sad. You are supposed to be sad. Then the sad part comes up. But then what happens with a brain where you are having a bipolar disorder, there is no reuptake of the happy hormone. So because the happy hormones are suppressed, you are constantly on a sad or depressive mood. Now, as well, the last one that I'll speak of is also being exposed to trauma from childhood, right? What we call cumulative adversities. Being exposed to traumas and stressors and all of these things can actually trigger bipolar. These are not the only causes. There are many others, but these are the ones that we know for sure at this particular time.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And with all that you have said in terms of the causes, will you say it's important for one to look after their lifestyle in order to minimize the probability for one to end up with bipolar?
Very much so. You have to be very selfish when it comes to your mental health. You see, I explained last week that mental health, your brain is your main switch. That is the reason why when someone is brain dead, they switch off the life support. Without it, it is what communicates, it is what tells your hand to do what it needs to do. Everything that happens, it has to come from the brain. So it is very, very important and very key for us to make sure that we remove ourselves from situations that are potentially stressing us. And it might not seem like much, but here's the trouble about that. When all these things are happening throughout childhood, throughout adolescence, and all of that, when you get to adulthood, then we have the onset of bipolar or depression or any other condition. And by then, you do not link it to what had occurred to you in your earlier life. But
Yes.
based on everything that has happened to you, good or bad, that will also contribute to you developing it or to the prognosis of it or how it should be treated. So, any situation, I know there are mothers who say, I cannot leave this abusive marriage. I'm staying for my children. Here's the unfortunate truth for you. You are building a fertile ground for your children to develop adulthood mental health problems.
That is so sad, doctor, but I trust that as prudent women, as we continue to talk on this subject of mental health, we are being made aware of a whole lot of things. When you talk issue of genes, it's not every time that I will know that in the family I've had this issue. Especially with us, we don't document things. In other cultures, you find that they've got a family tree. They will even indicate what this person suffered from. But with us, everything is classified to witchcraft because a
Yes.
black person never passes on without being bewitched. And it's unfortunate. And with this information you are giving to us, it says it's important for one to know their historic medical conditions so
Yes.
that you are able to always be aware and look out for such things. Not to say it must scare you, but you will be on the lookout and take care of yourself. As you rightfully say it, to say, as parents, we tend to stay and say, no, I'm doing it for my children. But you are not
Yes.
doing it for your children. Actually, you are building a fertile ground, as you are saying it, and which is very sad. I wish we can take these things serious. I wish we can start as prudent women to start doing it, because we realize that when it comes to any medical condition, we have hosted quite a number of medical specialists. And all they keep on saying is that the doctor will treat you based on what you tell them,
Yes.
what information you give them. So what I'm realizing, and it's last week or the other week, the health specialist who was here said to us, sicknesses we diagnose them and say it's bipolar, but they are not the same in different people because we are all unique. So it's upon you to be able to document that information, to be able to say it to your medical practitioner so that they can assist you appropriately. So, I'm basically saying let us be on a campaign, women, where we document things and we are able to talk to our families, give them the history. If someone, you are able to say, this is what has happened, this is what I have, and keep that information so that when you go out to seek
Yes.
for help, you get the appropriate help. Assistance. And we would like to say thank you again for people like you, doctor, because you went all out, studied on these things, and you've got expertise, and there's continuous research that is being done. But there are limitations in terms of scientific knowledge. That cannot, and it can never happen that we can say we've exhausted it. Because if we are saying in South Africa, what, this many millions, then it will mean they must have researched for each and every one of us, because we say
Yes.
each and every one of us is unique. So we are unique in our own right. I would like us to break. When we come in, I would ask to the next level. You know, bipolar. Now the causes. These are not exhausted. But Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself. I am RHULANI Baloyi. I am your host. Today we have with us our resident psychologist, Dr. Mkateko Mabunda. She is talking to us on a mental disorder that is called bipolar. Before we went on an ad break, she has taken us through the definition of bipolar. She has taken us through what may be the causes of bipolar. And now, as we come back, because in this show, we say we spark conversations so that we can start talking about these things, so that we can start researching as prudent women, because we don't want to be caught off guard, but we always want to respond appropriately whenever there is such a need for us to respond. Dr. Mkateko, I see before we go into the treatment side, I see someone asking, is there an age group which tends to suffer from bipolar more than the other group, and even the gender, in terms of your scientific research?
Yes, when it comes to the age, onset is 16 years and above, but mostly we see it in the adolescence age as well as the young adult. So it for some reason, or reasons that we don't know of, it's not that prevalent in the younger, childhood ages. It's just it's triggered and starts between the ages of 16 and upwards. However, this does not mean that at a younger age a child could not develop such, because you remember, as I said, that you have these happy hormones, and then because of these and the neurotransmitters are not working as well, a child can have an accident, right? So other medical physiological conditions can also cause it, and due to these and the injuries and all these other things, it might be that a child at a younger age who's not in that age group could develop the condition. Now, when it comes to gender, with gender variations, is that as usual, you will always find that when it comes to mood disorders, women tend to be more prevalent when it comes to our stats.
Yeah.
We then, and it does make a lot of sense, besides the fact that women consult more, have positive help seeking behaviors more than men. It does make sense because women are more emotional beings than men. Men then tend to be logical. That's why you will see that most conditions that men tend to suffer from tend to be, your behavioral issues, your substance abuse issues, unlike with women. So when it comes to bipolar, not to say that men do not suffer from it, but women are the most prevalent to all of this. And, it does make sense. We tend to be the ones taking care of children. We take care of husbands. We take care of siblings. Women have a lot more, or rather a bigger role, extensive responsibilities in society, work, in the home. So it makes much more sense that we would, have these types of conditions.
No, it's so true. And not being a scientist, I would like to say maybe it's because us women, we never keep quiet. We show forth, as you say, we are emotional beings, and men are logical, so they may be reserved. So I would like to believe, even when you were doing your study, even that one who was suffering from it, as long as they were male, you were not able to detect it because they tend to keep quiet and stay with it. But thank you so much, Doctor. When it comes to treatment, I know you will say most mental health, you don't have treatment per se that you can say it's out there, we can cure it. But what about bipolar? Is there medical treatment or any other treatment that you as doctors will prescribe to one who's suffering from such?
When it comes to treatment, the sad part is With bipolar, it's a lifelong condition. We are not yet at a stage where we can say this is the particular drugs that you can use and you can be permanently cured and this thing is done, you will never suffer from this again. Unfortunately, we are not at that point as yet. But we do have medications which are helping the patient to cope with day-to-day life of this disorder. So you might not be able to cure it, but you can be able to live with it, and it can stay dormant. By dormant, I mean it can stay under control for as long as you need it to. Because, for instance, you can have episodes of bipolar 4 times in a year. So it can happen like for 4 times in a year. Some people have it more frequent than others. And as well, I do have to say that although we do have these medications, we have your SSRIs, we have your antipsychotics, we have antidepressants, and many others, it does not work for the same people. So the same drugs cannot be prescribed for different patients. So you have to work with a psychiatrist who will be able to do tests and actually follow up and be invested in your condition for them to find the right kind of drug for you. For instance, the SSRI is for, remember when I spoke about the happy hormones, the serotonins,
Yes.
and all of that, what it does is it lifts up your mood, right? So if you are being prescribed with the SSRI and you do have the bipolar 1 and then you have the bipolar 2, or even a mixture of all of them, right? The cyclothymia. Here's the problem. That one is going to do what? Elevate your mania, because its job is to pump more energy into you. It is to pump the happy hormones. So what does that do? It adds on the mania that you already have. You see, so it depends. Each patient is different. We also have a therapy. Therapy is very important. Even if you are taking medication, you do need therapy. You need CBT, what we call CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. You need family therapy, because the people that are living with you need to know how to deal with you. Because for some instance, when someone is having a manic episode, they can take off all their clothes and remain butt naked. They take off the underwear, they scream, they stop the car in the middle of the road, in the highway, they do extreme stuff, and they want to commit suicide. So the people, like I said last week, the patient is the primary patient, but the family, the loved ones around that patient, are the secondary patients, because they play a supporting role to the patient. So psychotherapy, very, very important. The drugs themselves, very, very important as well.
Doctor, as you continue and talk on this condition, one thing that comes to me is that it may be very difficult for myself as the secondary patient to be able to convince the primary patient to seek help. In that situation, what can one do? Maybe let me elaborate on my question. I have my loved one whom I feel or observe that they may be suffering from bipolar. And if they are in those extreme behaviors, it will be very difficult to convince them that we need to visit a specialist, a psychiatrist. You need assistance. What will you advise me as the secondary patient on how to convince this person to seek for treatment?
That honestly, it's very, very difficult to convince a lot of people who are suffering from bipolar to seek for help. And the reason being stigma. We have, especially in our culture, take for instance, Black parents of a depressed teenager. What do we say? What do you have to be depressed about? You've got a roof over your head, you've got food on the table, you've got this, you've got money, we are rich. People honestly think that because of those things, a person cannot suffer from mental illness. And I understand it is because of lack of knowledge. So it is very difficult, especially when they are now having an episode. But when after the episode, then you can try and talk to them. But unfortunately for us, sometimes when they are during the episodes themselves, you cannot afford not to help that person, because unfortunately it can be fatal for them. They can actually die. So in some instances, especially when the person is manic, in some instances in South Africa, the law says you call ambulance and then you call the police, because that person is not themselves. They are not in their right mind to make decisions for themselves. So according to the law, they are regarded as what? As minors. You see.
Okay.
So you call the ambulance and then you call the police, and then they take that person to the hospital. The doctors will know how to deal and how to handle that person. But to be honest with you, it's a very difficult situation to be able to do it. It's quite tricky, especially, for instance, if they are manic, it's easy to call the ambulance and then call the police. But when they're in a depressive episode, it's quite difficult, because that person is just sleeping there. They're not doing anything, they're just sleeping, so they are not posing a threat to others, especially. So it's quite tricky. But the point is to push for help until that person gets help.
And most of the time, because even the institutions that you are mentioning, some of them are not empowered to know how to respond to such. Like you are saying, it may be difficult if they're having a depressive moment, because I can just imagine where you have called in the police, they come in and say, what is your problem? Because this person is just sleeping. What is it that you want? But I think as we get informed with these things, as we get to know more, you will also, especially if you know the person, because if you are asking for that person to seek for help, you know them. So I think also you having a relationship with them may play a role.
Yes.
So Dr. Mkateko, I see a question here from Sis Pascalis Legan. She's asking, does bipolar cause them to snap all the time and also irrational when they're faced with a problem?
So, because they are already in a vulnerable state, right? They don't normally, people with bipolar do not normally react to situations the way that we would, especially if they are going through that episode. However, saying this, however, does not mean that a person with bipolar does not react like you and me. The mistake that we make, stigma once again, when someone is now reacting to something, and it's a normal reaction that any average person would have. We start, what do we do? Akwenutana, phela, bipolar. Something that is got nothing to do with bipolar. This person is reacting the way that you would react as a person who's not suffering from bipolar. So these reactions, they depend, the irritability, the snapping, the anger, all of those, the impulsiveness. It also depends as to what state are they in. Are they going through the episode? Because people who suffer from bipolar, they can be on a manic episode, on a high, and then they go on a low, and all of that. It might happen once in a year. Some people stay dormant for quite some time, and only after something triggers them. A broken relationship can trigger them. A broken relationship might not trigger them. Death in the family, finances, all these things, stress of life can trigger them, but it might not trigger them. So we must not look at it like oh, by the way, they've got bipolar, therefore, no, it is not like that at all.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
With these conversations, we always say we wish we had more than an hour. But I know even if we were to have 2 hours, we'll not exhaust these things. But
Yes.
what I can say from Prudent Women, we say we bring in all these topics just to spark the conversation. And then a
Yes.
prudent woman will go all out and seek for information. Go and make your own research. Go and make your own observations, so that you can be able to empower yourself. And I would like us to go on an ad break. And maybe before we go on an ad break, I just want to break the wonderful news to all of you listeners of Bold Moves Radio. It was today that the Limpopo Gospel Divas team has unveiled to us the date for the Limpopo Gospel Divas for the year 2023. It shall be taking place on the 19th of August. And I would like to say to all of you, please get ready. Come and celebrate our gospel divas as we celebrate our women who are in the gospel field, as we celebrate Women's Month in the month of August. So get ready. It shall be happening at Mana Tabernacle. Get ready. I trust that we shall meet you there. Let us go on an ad break.
Are you ready for the ultimate dietary powerhouse? Look no further than Masana Dietitian's Nutro Boost. Our scientifically formulated low GI food is designed to give you the boost you need to fuel your body and reach your health goals. With NutriBoost, you have the flexibility to enjoy it as a high-fiber cereal or a satisfying shake. Simply mix it with water and indulge in the mouth-watering flavors that we have to offer. But that's not all. NutriBoost is packed with essential nutrients that are beneficial for your overall well-being. Enriched with 20 immune-boosting vitamins and minerals, it's a convenient and effective way to support your immune system. And here's the best part. NutriBoost is gluten-free, egg-free, and high in omega-3, making it suitable for those with dietary restrictions or allergies. Need an energy boost? NutriBoost has you covered. It's high in energy and protein, providing you with the fuel you need to power through your day. Whether it's a busy morning or an intense workout session, say goodbye to midday slumps and hello to sustained energy with NutriBoost. Try it today and experience the difference. For orders or to become a distributor, contact us on the following details.
Welcome back to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. Today we are talking on the subject of bipolar, which is a mental disorder. And to help us understand bipolar, help us on how to seek for treatment, on how to enhance the quality of life for our loved ones suffering from this condition, we have with us Dr. Mkateko Mabunda. She is our resident psychologist. Dr. Mkateko, we no longer have time, but I feel we cannot end our conversation without us talking on how, of course, we can enhance the quality of life for our loved one. Yes, we have spoken on seeking for treatment, but how do I make sure that my loved one, whom I now know they are suffering from bipolar, feel welcome, feel appreciated, feels loved, even though they have got this condition?
Okay. The best thing that you can do for your loved one is get as much education as you can about their condition. Develop a relationship with their treating doctor if they allow you as well. Make them feel like they are in control of their situation. And then try as much as you can to normalize their condition. You see, if I feel like there are unique circumstances about me and this condition, or if I feel like I'm inferior to others based on this condition, then it's even going to get worse, even the prognosis, the management of it. So what you need to do is to make sure that your loved one knows that they're in control. You get as much education as you can, and you let them know that you will always be there for them, right? The second one is, I know it sounds like the most simplest thing that we can say, be kind. You see, when you have kindness, it's easy to deal with many things. Be as kind as you possibly can for that individual. I always say this when I speak about stigma and many other things, and kindness as well. I always think whenever I see a person having an episode, especially manic, I always tell myself this: what if it was me? You see? I always tell myself that could easily be me. And from there, I think, what and how, rather, how would I want people to respond to me and my condition? You see, how would I want people to treat me with this condition? And based on that, you do it for that particular individual. So kindness is basically love. Love covers all things. Love does, it's there for the person. It seeks to find the goodness of the person and the comfort of that particular person. So be as kind as you possibly can for that particular individual.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mkateko. I would like to believe all of us, we have been empowered this afternoon on this subject of bipolar. If we still have got questions, we should go out and make our own research as women. For you to be prudent, you need information. And we are living in the information age. Information, it's everywhere, but it requires for one to be aware of all these things that are happening around us so that you can be able to take that step. And we would like to say thank you to all of you who had tuned in, listening to this conversation, being part of this conversation. We'd like to say thank you, Sesintsako Shilobani, for having been here. Thank you, Priscilla Nkuna. I see you've been here, says Georgina. Thank you very much. It is us who go out and seek for information who will be able to help society, because even as the word of God says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. When we stay in the dark and we say, I'm not suffering from that, how about if it happens to you tomorrow? How will you respond? And you may not even know what are you suffering from if you do not know that there are things such as those that are happening all around us. And of course, it takes that feeling that Dr. Mkateko is saying. What about if it can be me? How will I feel when people are behaving this way? So once you put yourself in the shoes of the other person, there is no way. You'll definitely show compassion. You'll definitely show kindness and love towards that person. And it is only the environment that all of us will live in that helps us not to be triggered to certain types of all these disorders. Because as we continue to talk on them, as we continue to bring in this awareness on mental health, I realize that each one of us are prone for these disorders. At the environment in which we live in, at times suppresses them, makes it more comfortable that we do not suffer from such. So you are not an exception. It can happen to you. When you see your brother, your sister suffering from it, respond appropriately. Dr. Mkateko, as we come to the end of this conversation, I would like to invite you. What will you like to say to us again, another nugget in terms of mental health awareness, even as we continue in the month of June?
Yes, mental health, that is your main switch. be very, today I visited a very beautiful church, Christ Centered Chapel of Grace. Pastor Bongani is the one pastoring the church, and this is what I said. This is your main switch. And the pastor who was ministering, he was saying, guard your heart, from the Bible, because that's where the streams of life come from. Everything about your life comes from that. So it is. They are having a theme called Heart Matters. It is basically mind matters. So that's what I am saying to you. Guard your mental your mental health with everything that you can, so that and thank God, as we end now, the electricity is coming back, the darkness is now it's
It's
improved.
gone.
So because I was suffering, it's so dark I could not even see my face. So but anyway, as we end, guard it with everything that you can. Your mental health is your wealth. With everything, it does not matter. It's family conflict, it's work, it's all this, anything that is not good for your soul, which is the mind. Please move away from such. If it cannot be resolved, move away from it, because otherwise we will bury you. You will die before you die. You'll be a walking dead person for the next 50 years, and then we just go and bury your body after 50 years, but you had long died. So please take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mkateko. We have come to the end of this beautiful show. I trust that we have been empowered. I myself have been empowered, and I will definitely show kindness and love to those people that I suspect are having a challenge with this sickness, so that they can live or can be, and their quality of life can be enhanced, because we are all here for each other. It is not, you are not living in an island, and the environment in which you are in, it's impacted by the people around you. Yes. Thank you very much. We had a wonderful and a beautiful show. We'd like to say thank you to DJ Messi. What a wonderful young woman who is always here to take us through. And we'd like to say thank you to our executive director, Pastor Strike Mangani, and the whole team of Bold Moves Radio, and of course our researcher, Dr. Numalo Julia. Would like to say thank you very much. Have a blessed and a wonderful afternoon, even as you stay tuned, because at 5:30, Pastor Frida Matebula is here with the Living Word Outreach Program. Your favorite pastor will be coming in. And of course, tomorrow, from Monday up until Friday, we have prayer sessions every morning at 6 o'clock until 6:30. Please join us, even as you start the day with the Word of God and prayer. And on Tuesday, we have the African Experience. On Thursday, we've got Love SA. And of course, on Sunday, Prudent Woman comes back. And before Prudent Woman on Sundays, we've got the choral show. This coming few weeks, we'll be bringing to you the wonderful chorals that were at Guyana yesterday for the SJ Kosa music concert. So stay tuned. Bold Moves Radio has got a pack of lineup, and we say we raise the flag of an African child. Have a blessed day further, even as we see you at 5:30.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
Streaming 24/7.
24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana, oh Afrika nakupenda sana.